Our next speaker is Professor Andrea Nanetti. Professor Nannetti is this conference co-chair. He is a historian by training with the specialty in medieval and Renaissance studies. His main interest is in the change and innovation of heritage interpretation processes. He's both a scholar and an entrepreneur. As a scholar, he applies interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary methods to the study of regional man-heritage landscape, man-heritage landscape systems, national art, heritage politics relationships, and global histories of intercontinental heritage networks. As an entrepreneur, he adopts transnational and cross-disciplinary approaches in access to heritage, support to heritage management, conservation science, and contemporary art in architecture. Professor Nannetti speaks on behalf of Mr. Dimitris Maniatakis, chairman of the Maniatakeion Foundation Greeks, who cannot be here with us today. He will speak on the UNESCO Mediterranean Diet adventure, an insight perspective by the Maniatakeion Foundation as a founding member and technical advisor of the Greek Emblematic community. Professor Nanetti, thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends. I'm quite sad because Dimitris couldn't be here. He was here a couple of years ago, giving to us, say, a private talk about the story of the Mediterranean diet. And we were in a Greek restaurant here in Singapore. And having this conversation, we thought that it would have been a good idea to invite him for a heritage conference. And it was the right timing for this cuisine panel, but unfortunately his commitments in Greece couldn't allow him to come. And he charged me to give the talk for him. And it is the happy part. I'm quite happy because it brings me back to my previous life when I was in Greece teaching at the college here in Athens, which is a study abroad program. And I was serving in the Maniatakeion Foundation as responsible for the cultural section. I still have this position, but it's something more honorary now because I'm not there, I'm not contributing. So today is something like a contribution that I'm giving to the foundation, and it brings me back to those wonderful years that you were there. You already got the title. We are getting into practice, so we had a wonderful introduction from Anna. Thank you so much. And now you will see how a community, we could say leaded or helped by a foundation, discovered how to use intangible cultural heritage and tangible cultural heritage as a source for sustainable economic development. Most of the ideas started in 2009 when I co-chaired a conference in Koroni and with the same title, Historical Memory and Economic Development. We had government people, foundations, public institutions, and from there many ideas started, and this is one of them. Let's start from what was the Maniatakeion Foundation. It's a private, non-profit, public service institution based in Athens. It was established in 1995 by Dimitris Maniatakis and his wife, Eleni Maniatakis, who devoted and donated all their properties to the foundation. Most of them came from the ICAP company, which was a bank rating company for the Balkans that was sold, and all the outcome got into the foundation. The mission of the foundation is linked to that, we could say little village or little territory, is the hometown of Dimitris. The mission is to increase public awareness and an appreciation of the historical and cultural presence of the Messenian town fortress of Koroni in Greece history. And all this concept is very linked to economic development. Dimitris is an economist by education, And actually, when he came here to Singapore, giving us that private talk on the Mediterranean diet, he was invited by the business school to give a talk on the Greek crisis. And second mission is to enhance cultural awareness in the territory of Koroni. And not to teach, but to help the community to understand that with an eye towards the future and not towards the past, their cultural heritage can be a solution for a better life and an economic development for their community. And now let's go to the term Mediterranean diet. Mediterranean diet is a sustainable diet. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, sustainable diets are the ones with low environmental impact that contribute to food and nutrition security and to healthy life for present and future generations. This is the definition. Additionally, in 2010, in an FAO report on biodiversity in sustainable diets, countries, communities, and culture that maintain their own traditional food systems are better able to conserve local food specialties with a corresponding diversity of crop, varieties, and animal breeds. So all in all, the sense is that a traditional approach to food production can help, and it would help small communities to get into a better future. Koroni is a small community, and all the Mediterranean diet story works around small communities. Let's make a bit of a story of this Mediterranean diet. Sudden interest in the health implication of Mediterranean diet actually began with Ansel Keys' work back in 1952. An epidemiological longitudinal study that was the first to systematically examine the relationship between lifestyle, diet, coronary heart disease, and stroke in different populations from different regions of the world. It directed attention to the causes of coronary heart disease and stroke, but also showed that an individual's risk can be changed. The 7 countries study was formally started in 1958 in Yugoslavia. In total, 12,763 men in between 40 and 59 years old were enrolled in 16 groups in 7 countries, in 4 regions of the world: United States, Northern Europe, Southern Europe, Japan. To make the long story short, comparisons between different populations showed that the population of the island of Crete, in the center of Mediterranean, Greek island, had better health status and lower rates of mortality from coronary heart diseases and cancer compared with all other populations studied. After 20 years, the people of Crete had smaller percentages of deaths from all causes, while after 25 years follow-up, deaths from coronary heart disease in Crete was dramatically less than the deaths observed in populations of the United States and Northern Europe. But even compared to their deaths observed in other parts of Southern Europe, such as Italy and Yugoslavia, which had the lowest rate just after Crete. It was the region of Cilento, south now of Naples, and central Yugoslavia, in Serbia today. The secret, let's say, according to Keys, the secret of the people of Crete was lifestyle, work outdoors, increased physical activity, and a specific kind of diet. And here, from these studies, where this pyramid come. It's a long story, but it's connected to Keys studies. It's dated 1983, I think the first one, but it's connected to Keys studies. Keys considered olive oil protective to coronary heart disease if compared to butter and other animal fats. Moreover, researchers in the Mediterranean diet, besides heart diseases, expanded much further to include possible effects on total mortality, cardiovascular disease, several types of cancer, and the coronary and the chronic degenerative diseases. The research case research started shortly after the end of the Second World War. And the Greek government was one of the first involved in that research. In 1948, the Greek government, anxious about the necessity to increase post-war economic and health conditions, requested the Rockefeller Foundation, it was inside the Marshall Plan, to assume an epidemiologic investigation on the island of Crete in order to raise the population's living standard. And they discovered that they were pretty well established in their health conditions. Leland Olbo was therefore appointed by the foundation to undertake the research to what ended to be an enlightened investigation. The results of these thorough investigations were published in 1953, and from there Keynes started to make different case studies all over the world in order to figure out what was going on there. Here, sorry, we having the pyramid, maybe, yes, we have time. The pyramid can be explained in two ways. One could be historical, and being a historian by education, I start from the other page. Going back to Fernand Braudel, the famous French historian of the 20th century, who made known to the public the Mediterranean diet of the 16th century, distinctively pointed out when referring to the Mediterranean landscape that everywhere one encounters the same trinity, daughter of climate and history, the wheat, the olive tree, and the vine. And I would say, I would cut daughter of climate, I would say daughter of history and tradition only, because it has been demonstrated that these essences, so the olive tree, the wheat, and the wine, are not original from the Mediterranean, so they come from outside. It seems that the only tree that still is there, that is used in food production, is the fig, which belongs to the Mediterranean from antiquity. So we are in a story of human development. But let's go back to the pyramid. Sorry for that. So the way in which the Mediterranean diet has been conceptualized and studied in relation to health, as well as economical, social, and other parameters, can be used as a model for the study of sustainable diets. It is the belief of the UNESCO now, when the diet was appointed, as we will see later in the list. Mediterranean regime could be classified as a traditional food supplement of a region where the practices of cooking and gathering are part of the culture of a region, prior to the century of mass production, and where most population groups apply simple, time-honored approaches. Sadly enough, introduction of technological innovations on a large-scale production altered food production processes. Two small examples. When we had that conference in 2009, people were complaining, so guests were complaining that for breakfast they had butter from Holland, and they found at the supermarket garlic from China. Instead of having local garlic or olive oil, they didn't find local products. And when we asked to the owners of the hotels, they told that it was cheaper to have this kind of products, because Greek garlic was much more expensive than the Chinese one, and butter was cheaper than olive oil. So putting olives in the for breakfast wasn't easy. But year after year, now, if you go to Koroni, you will find almost everywhere a kind of traditional Mediterranean breakfast. New models of food mass production and progressive consumption have altered in ways that deeply affected human diets and ecosystems, and especially in Koroni. These led the foundation, I would say us, but I made better to say led the foundation, to rethink about promoting agricultural system and encouraging traditional food and healthy food consumption. Promoting traditional regional food is a step towards sustainable rural development. It is therefore of utmost importance to preserve diversity and collective identity. Mediterranean diet can very well be at the epicenter of this diet. Let's go on. We have this. Sorry, it's not my PowerPoint, so I need to have a look at it. Okay, these are the countries. Yes. The Greek Ministry of Culture, in collaboration with relevant ministries and other institutions in Spain, Italy, and Morocco, have taken the initiative to highlight the cultural value of the Mediterranean diet in order to inscribe it in the representative list of UNESCO. Greece chose Koroni to support the Greek participation. Italy chose Cilento, Morocco chose Chefchaouen, and Spain chose Soria, because their city had a special combination of cultural, historical, intangible, tangible, so a different sort of cultural heritage was embedded there. And mainly they had a kind of specialties in food production. For example, Koroni has this special kind of olives called the Koroni Pikilia, which is a special kind of little olives that gives a high quality, non-acid olive oil. The Maniatakeion Foundation stepped into the project immediately, funding it and helping Greece and other countries as well to support the writing of the dossier. In collaboration with the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Rural Development and Food, strongly supported and contributed to both writing and editing the necessary data for the candidacy dossier on behalf of Koroni, and furthermore, coordinated all local bodies on the transnational application file for the inscription of the Mediterranean diet in the representative list of the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage of humanity of UNESCO. In this context, the Maniatakeion Foundation was designed and appointed as a technical advisor of the municipality of Pylos Nestoros. It was one of the brilliant ideas of the president of the foundation. He didn't want to act personally or on behalf of his foundation, but he wanted to be the advisor of the institution that he thought would have been the best one that could have supported this kind of endeavor, so the municipality of that city. Let's see what we have. This is slides of Koroni. This is a nice view of Koroni. It's the Venetian castle up there, fishing image, and the olive harvest in December. So, according to this draft decision of UNESCO, the Intergovernmental Committee takes note that Spain, Greece, Italy, and Morocco have nominated the Mediterranean diet for inscription on the list. And it went on. On Tuesday, November 16, 2010, the Mediterranean diet was included in UNESCO's representative list, and Koroni in Greece, Soria in Spain, Cilento in Italy, and Chefchaouen in Morocco were declared emblematic communities. It was quite another good step of the foundation, I must add, to this talk, because they explicitly wanted to entrust specific communities for the Mediterranean diet. And instead of leaving everything to the Ministry of Culture, of Agriculture, or Food, they wanted to have, of course, you need the ministries to apply to the UNESCO and to get on into the process. But at the end, they want a specific community to take charge of the development of pilot studies. And it worked pretty well. According to the UNESCO decision, I'm quoting, the Mediterranean diet contributes a set of skills, knowledge, practices, and traditions ranking from the landscape to the table, including the crops, harvesting, fishing, conservation, processing, preparation, and particularly consumption of food. It is characterized by the nutritional model that has remained constant over time and space, consisting mainly of olive oil, cereals, fresh or dried fruit and vegetables, a moderate amount of fish, dairy and meat, and mainly continents and spices, all accompanied by a moderate assumption of wine or infusions, always respecting beliefs of each community. And here are the list of the skills. Here is the term of Mediterranean diet, and the common characteristic that unify these communities. In common perception, the people living around the Mediterranean basin, or at least these 4 communities, have formed over time a culture with common characteristics because, one, it brings people close and strengthens their social relations. It is a social consumption of food. It contributes to the sustainable management of the countryside and natural resources and to the conservation of traditional fishing and farming practices. Third, it contributes to good health, both physical and mental one, as well as to creativity. It is an element of intercultural and intergenerational exchange. We had schools or courses or stages or workshops in which young kids from different countries started to learn how to buy things at the supermarket, how to choose them, how to prepare them, and how to eat them as a community. It is constantly present in the oral tradition, in songs, stories, proverbs, quotations, and so on. Here is a slide of the emblematic community of Koroni. You see a sort of symposium organized by the foundation and the harvest of the olives. The foundation has a production just for friends and guests of olive oil and wine. Here is the communities in 2013 that are starting to enlarge and to attract other countries. One special note, which is transcultural and makes sense to be mentioned here, is that we have communities that applied to be listed as emblematic community for the Mediterranean diet outside the Mediterranean. For example, Argentina is one of the main cases. And the claim that they made is that they actually followed by tradition the Mediterranean diet because most of the people there came from Mediterranean countries. And they are keeping on that tradition even if they are not in the Mediterranean. So, okay, I'm getting closer. And here, the values of the Mediterranean gastronomy essentially are the ones already studied by Keyes. So the longevity, full of health, the respect for the unique character of each ingredient, its natural flavor, and high nutritional value. A bridge connecting the wealth inherited by the past and tradition to the needs and trends of modern people. There is a lot of study on the calories, on how to enhance the use of Mediterranean diet in a modern and more indoor lifestyle. This is one of the examples that I mentioned with kids and connecting to the ancient Greek symposium maybe in an ideal way. But in practice, they experience how food can be fun and how health can be played and learned as a game. The UNESCO Mediterranean Guide an adventure brought to the engagement of the local communities, because especially women or men in restaurants, at the very beginning they felt a bit outside of the game. And they were a bit scared that what they were making or producing couldn't have been considered Mediterranean diet. So they were engaged little by little, and the foundation collected receipts from people in the community. And they published that book in Greek and English, which became quite famous because at the end of his receipt there are the names of the ladies or of the man that gave that receipt. And they are all very proud of it. And these dishes are becoming the dishes that you can find in restaurants in Koroni. And they are very proud, and they want to show that the ingredients come from the region. And they want to tell you where they have been produced, why, and the whole story. And you have kids and old people that are engaged in this. To conclude, to get toward the conclusion, so you have the Mediterranean Diet Foundation, the Maniatakeion Foundation linked the Mediterranean Diet to the municipality and to the people and to the traditions of the country. The UNESCO Mediterranean Diet Adventure, the actions of the Maniatakeion Foundation were not only in Koroni or inside the UNESCO, but as they are here now, they participate in international conferences, inviting specialists in different disciplines, and they engage people and scholars in this game at different levels. So you can see here examples of actions of the foundations in the last years. Here is the first link that has been made with the study abroad program of college here in Athens, which links 180 universities of the US that want to send their students to study abroad in Greece. And they had in 2014 and 15 the first two classes on anthropology of food in Greece, Mediterranean Diet, course organized by college here in Athens and sponsored, funded by the Maniatakeion Foundation. So after that is the actions in funding. They went into how can we build with this startup a network to build up small companies, owned and spiritually supported by young people of the region, instead of having them live around. The action startup, I directed the section for Greece. Even if I was here, it was quite a challenge, but I liked the idea and it was worth. Because now they have a platform, a web platform in which people from Denmark to Morocco, via Greece or other European countries can access how to use intangible cultural heritage and make economic development enterprises. Let's close with this slide instead of going down. So the UNESCO Mediterranean Diet connects a village with its tangible heritage, intangible heritage, very deep health and dietary studies. And I shouldn't say this, but it's one of the most beautiful examples that we can find of a small community that reached the top in an international recognition and allowed a young generation in a country which is Greece, affected by the financial crisis, as you know, and is evolving in not only in a sustainable tourism, but is evolving being proud of their roots and being confident in a new, bright future. Thank you very much, and thank you, Dimitri and Eleni.